Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for taking the time to visit and be a part of this webinar today with Tony and myself. This is one of my favorite webinar sessions that we have, and it's really exciting for me, and I'm sure for you guys too, to see what's going on with the iFormBuilder platform, and even to catch up on what's happened so far this year in 2015, because it's been very exciting what the development team has been able to achieve for you guys. And so we're listening to the people, so we're trying to bring it to you. So for those of you who are using the Esri platform and are going to the Esri user conference in just a couple weeks, we would love to see you. Please get in touch with us. We're going to be at booth 1017, but you can also email our colleague Ella Hay and let her know that you're going to be there, and we can try to schedule a time to just catch up if that's easier. We can give you some iFormBuilder swag. It'll just be great to put a face to the project that you've been able to create and just to get to know you a little bit. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you guys to Tony. So if you haven't met Tony yet, he is awesome, and he's what we call the Wizard of iFormBuilder.
Thanks, Barrett. Well, that was a great introduction, and I'm happy to be back and talking about some things that we've achieved so far this year, and also take a look at what the next half of the year will bring to us and ultimately all of our users out there. So this session is again focused on what we will be working on in the second half of this year, and we want to take a look at also some of the philosophies that we have adopted, and just share with you kind of the inner workings of iFormBuilder, the way we think, and why we do the things that we do. So to kick things off, I just want to do a recap on the first 6 months of 2015. We had 6 scheduled releases, which is keeping on pace with our once a month or every few weeks release cycle. And basically, what you can see are the major highlights from those 6 releases below. The filtered option list was actually one that was pulled from our community forums and was the most highly voted feature request that was out there. The idea being that within an option list driven element, you actually have a search bar at the very top, and so you can start keying in text, and basically a very long list will start to dwindle in real time. This is not to be confused with the smart option list, where the selection or the text from a previous field can refine the options in a list. That could still be used in conjunction with this new filtered option list feature. So it was helping people in the field find the information they needed to enter faster, improving efficiency, and it was just really a great addition across the board. So both Android and iOS clients, if you're running the latest, you'll have the ability to leverage this. The second one, which it doesn't get a lot of, I guess there's not much to see here, if you will, from an end user standpoint, or even an admin standpoint. But application security is big. I mean, the modern web is filled with lots of people that want to do bad things and steal information, and we hear about it pretty much all the time in the news that another breach has happened, major vendors. So you really can't think that it's not going to happen to you. You have to expect something bad will happen to you, and prepare and train in order to be vigilant of the types of attacks that are out there, and as well as how to defend yourself against these attacks. You can think of this in a similar mindset as defending yourself if you were to be attacked on the street or somebody tried to break into your home. And so we really ramped up our efforts here and took a very proactive stance. We teamed up with some experts who were basically being paid on a daily basis to attack applications and to expose vulnerabilities, and we tried to learn their ways, to think like the attackers do, and put ourselves in that set of shoes and actually start trying to break into iFormBuilder or expose vulnerabilities that technologies iFormBuilder relies on may have. And so this was again, not something that you really see, but ultimately it helps you rest easy at night that your data that's being secured by iFormBuilder is in good hands. The next thing would have been private media container, and this is an addition to how we currently store media You can always upload your image file or your sound file and have it saved to a cloud resource, either your Cloud Files account, which is the default that iFormBuilder takes care of for you, or a Box or Dropbox account. There were some folks that had voiced concerns over if the URL was public and somebody was able to find that, what were those consequences? So ultimately, we added another option which allows you to store your media in a private location where it can only be viewed within the iFormBuilder admin console. So you would have to log in with proper credentials and then even have access to the form which contained that media. Additionally, we included an API for those folks who wanted to still use that media saved in the private container and use it in other software applications, third-party or internal. That leads us into subform batch mode, and this is a big efficiency gain for those folks that are doing multiple paging subforms and are going to do maybe more than 10 records, I would say. So the idea is that every time you complete a subform record, you have to press the done button, and then if you're going to keep working on that subform, you'll have to press the plus button to create a new one. And so effectively what we've done is added a flag that can be applied to a subform, so when the user presses done, it's actually pressing the plus button for them automatically. So the experience will be that when they press done on the subform, a brand new subform record appears ready for them to start entering data again. So this is a really minor change, but ultimately the experience is way different when you try to compare collecting 100 subform records using the old iForm versus the new iForm 8.0 that includes this. The last two down here are yet to be publicly released. They are in what we would call the deployment mode. So they are in our testing QA environment. They are on the final stretches of being QA'd and making sure that there's no bugs or no bugs that we can identify. And these two are really awesome. I want to take some time and just say that these two can really change the way that you do work within iFormBuilder. For integrators, I'm actually going to start with the API v6 because the package builder relies on it. For integrators who have been working with the iFormBuilder APIs, you're used to working with data that comes back, and typically you're not using all the data that comes back. What I mean by that is, let's say you want to retrieve data for a form, and really all you care about are 3 attributes in the 100 attributes that exist for that form. And currently what will happen today is if you ask iFormBuilder for data, we'll send you all the data for whatever filtered query you sent through. You can specify the date range and all sorts of fun filters, but we send you back all the data points. And really that leaves you with the job of parsing all those data points out that you don't want and simply using the ones that you do. So in API v6 we've added what's called a grammar to the API, and that will allow integrators to effectively write SQL-like statements against the API framework. So in the scenario we described, you only want 3 data attributes out of 100. You actually tell the API to return data, for all the filtered parameters that you had before, but to only give you 3 fields back. So it's a major change. It's actually going to help with these other third-party tools like Folio that we are integrating with, because we're sending back far less data to their platform, and ultimately that means you can pull more records in because you have less data points that you won't use in the request. The second thing here is what we call Form Package Builder, and this is actually built on top of the API v6 that I just went through. And it really couldn't be done any other way, at least not efficiently. So the idea behind Form Package Builder is that you have, let's say, 100 forms within your account, and 13 of those forms are geared towards inspection, 12 are geared towards QA, another 20 are geared towards something else. If you had other organizations, or let's say you have regional offices or country offices that want to do the same thing that you're doing, right now it's a little challenging to basically share that work with others if they are not within the same account that you currently hold, using the sharing or the copying method that we have. Even that is still not as amazing as Form Package Builder. So what Form Package Builder will let you do is effectively bundle up a package of forms and create a downloadable file, which can then be used to import into another account if you had a dedicated database. So you can set up other companies within your private database, and then you can import these packages to quickly set up new projects or groups or regional offices, whatever you, however you divide your company. Additionally, you could share with others in your industry. So this is just a really fun way. There'll be more advancements coming to this. Seth already has a long list of things that he wants to add to this. So we'll put out a full, kind of media release on the Form Package Builder and API v6 here in the coming weeks. But I did want to call this out because we spent a lot of time on this in Q2. I'm sorry, yeah, Q2.
So Tony, before you go,
Barrett, are there any questions out there?
Yes, I was just about to say, before you go any further, there are two things. One thing is that I wanted to mention to those of you who are looking at this list and wondering how to use something like the subform batch mode. When we send out this slide deck, there will be a link to how to use that, and same with the private media container. So you'll be able to learn more information on those pieces. The other thing is, Tony, I just had a Kickstart with someone, and they just, we were talking about the counter widget, and so they brought up to me that we're not talking about the counter widget here. So would you mind just mentioning a few things about that?
That is great. Absolutely. So yeah, counter widget somehow slipped my mind on this list, but right now we have a release which we're calling 8.1 that's been sent to Apple for review. The Android version of that is sitting on the Google Play Store ready for release as well. And so the counter widget is effectively like a select where you'll have an inline control where there's a plus button on the right hand side and a minus button on the left hand side and a display in the center. And so you can tap the plus or tap the minus to either add or decrement. And by default it will always go up and down by 1, but you actually have control to set the step value. If for some reason you wanted to count by halves or 2.5 or 5 or 10 or anything like that, we've given you the flexibility to override the default of 1. So stay tuned. That's coming in probably the next week and a half or so, and we'll keep you posted once it's available.
All right, thank you, Tony. That's it for now.
All right, great. So I think there's a number of other things in here, like the counter widget that didn't make the list. These are just a few of the bigger ones I wanted to call out. So with that review out of the way, I just wanted to kind of take some time to talk about our development style and just give you some insight into the way that we work and why we do these things. So as I mentioned, 6 releases in 6 months is pretty much warp speed. So we really can't, go much faster we can, but it's basically, it's a really quick turnaround time. And the reason we can do this and develop so quickly and push new features out, because a feature is not really a feature until the end user has it in their hands. Until that point, it's just something in development. So the reason we can get these features out at warp speed is because we focus on just enough functionality. We understand that nothing that we develop will be perfect the first try. And so with that mindset, we're comfortable pushing something out there that basically solves a problem, knowing that we're going to get feedback, it'll be improved, and it's not going to be the end of that feature. It's truly just the beginning. So as you can see, the third bullet point is improve, improve, improve. A lot of the improving comes from the feedback that we get from various users. And so with different business needs out there using iFormBuilder, we get all sorts of points of view that we could never see ourselves. Function over form is key. So this is all about it. It has to work, and we know that we're not the prettiest looking application out there, and I think most of us are okay with that. But ultimately, we want to make sure that the software that's you're relying on to run your businesses efficiently works for you and works reliably. We'll continue to and try to improve the UI and the graphics and all the things that make it look sexy, but ultimately our focus is function over form. So ears to the ground and eyes forward, what does that mean? It means that we have to listen, stop and listen to get the feedback in order to improve on these features that we put out there with just enough functionality. But we also have to look forward. And there's new technology developments all the time. iOS 9 is right around the corner. So in addition to stopping and listening, we also have to kind of sprint ahead and try to see what's on the horizon in order to stay on the cutting edge and to make sure that you have all the great features that are coming out, either in the iOS or the Android or on the web server world. And we also like to do this transparently. And if you're not subscribed already, we encourage you to subscribe to our release notes section. We are posting our release notes on the development cycles about a week or sometimes 2 weeks before we actually get to the release side. And so this is just a way that you can know what we're working on, know when to expect updates, and we want to be as transparent as possible and let you know what we're doing and when that stuff will be available. Okay, so why do we work this way? The reason we work this way is because it gives new ideas a fighting chance. New ideas come up all the time, and if we sit there and try to think about how to make a new idea perfect, there's 300 other new ideas that are now in the queue. So we try to just make decisions quickly and put something out there to see if it makes sense, and if it doesn't, then it shouldn't get a ton of attention in the planning phase. We also do this because business needs change very quickly, and we designed our team basically to accommodate this rapid pace that we're all growing accustomed to. And so if we're doing 6-month planning phases for development cycles, we really can't adopt we can't react to changes in the environment and have that not be super disruptive to the way we run our business. So we expect change, and we kind of built everything around change happening all the time. The other great thing about rapid cycles and keeping them concise is that you fight scope creep much better. And it's very apparent if I look back at the previous years when we were doing much bigger releases, the effectiveness of delivering on time was not very good. And so these smaller cycles help you actually help us hit our delivery timelines. And we know there's going to be some variation. New bugs will be introduced last minute. But ultimately, if the scope is small to begin with, then we can handle those changes that pop up at the end. The frequent deployments result in fewer upgrade problems. This is the whole practice makes perfect mentality. So the more frequently you do something, the better you get at it, the less prone to errors you are, and you'll also improve how you do your deployments. So if you sit back and do it twice a year, there's really no need to improve or to get better because, hey, it's only twice a year. But with the frequency of deployments, we've improved our processes, we've gotten more automated, and ultimately that results in our deployment success being much higher than previously. The new ideas are also molded by users, and this is basically saying that once we put something out there, you find really interesting ways to use maybe a feature that we intended to work one way but could also work 5 other ways. And so these this whole mentality of put something out there with just enough functionality to let the end users who are really relying on that feature or that software to push it in the direction it should go, not just what we think. And this early insight by putting features out there in a very usable state, but maybe not perfect, it also saves us time on developing useless things. So again, what we think is a great idea in the kind of in the war room or on the roundtable discussion doesn't fly in the field. And I've seen this a number of times working with clients on projects where you sit down and everything sounds great when you're sitting around your laptop and a handful of devices on a table, and then you walk into the working environment and things fall apart. So again, we try to move quickly because we don't want to spend time planning on something that can't work, won't work, or is kind of pointless. Before I jump into what we're working on the second half of the year, are there any questions or comments around the development style and why we do this?
Hi, Tony. No, there aren't any questions on that. There was a question on how to sign up for the release notes, so I was just writing the response. If you have a window open and just want to show where the release notes are, that would be great too.
Fantastic. You should be able to see my screen here, and should just say hi to Joe on chat, but we won't do that. But if you came into the release notes section of the knowledge base, once you're signed in, you're going to see a button in the top right-hand corner here, which it should say follow. So in this case, if I actually unfollow the release notes, I see this option to follow. And then you can follow either new articles or the new articles and the comments that go with it. I like to stay informed, so I'll pick the second option. And at this point, you can see that you are now following this section.
And just to reiterate that, with the following, every time a new release happens, you'll receive an email telling you that a new article has been added to this thread.
Okay, on to the fun stuff. What are you guys working on the next half of the year? And there's a lot of big stuff that's coming. In addition to the form packager and the API v6 that we touched on briefly, that will be rolling out here in the next couple of weeks. We also have a new form builder in the works. And so you say, what is a new form builder? A new form builder is we are redesigning the way that form builder is going to work for you. So not only the technology that it's built in, how the interface is laid out, the interactions that you'll experience are going to be quite different from what you're used to. And we spent a lot of time kind of reviewing the user flows and the stories and trying to really dig into, what does a form builder need to do for the person who's in there, either building forms, modifying them, applying logic, all these different things that you may do as you're putting your forms together. And so I'm gonna go into a quick preview demo here in just a little bit, but this is a really big one that we're excited about. The next thing is an integration with Folio, and so we've been having conversations with their team for some time, and have gotten to a point now where we're looking at an integration that they put together in a preview environment, and first look is very positive. So for those folks using Folio, your experience has been you can use the XML or the JSON data feeds, which is really great. I mean, we didn't have to do any special integration, and the data could connect from iFormBuilder over to Folio. The challenge, if you will, is that the real power in iFormBuilder is on the API side. And so being able to leverage the grammar and all these crazy filters that we talked about earlier, we wanted to really do a deep integration and to let this Folio platform connect through the iFormBuilder APIs. So stay tuned, this is coming. Again, it's in the preview stage for our team. And as soon as we know more on a release date, we'll be sure to share that with you. Multi-factor authentication, and this is something that we want to do, but also the industry is pretty much demanding at this point, and so you can look forward to multiple factor authentication coming in the next half of the year. We're also working on a manage application for Android, and this is not to be confused with a manage tab within iForm. We're actually building a dedicated manage application. And so the plan will also be to do this for iOS at some point. The reason being is right now, actually, if you're collecting data and you wanted to go reference some data in the manage section, you have to completely back out of what you're doing and then switch the iForm application around and then dig into the data that you're looking for. So instead, if we have dedicated applications for collecting and managing, then we can actually transition between the two applications much faster, and so the user doesn't have to basically leave what they're doing on the data collection side just to go check some data that they may want to reference on the server. This also helps keep the code a little cleaner and allows us to do some really fun things with a dedicated application. So you can look forward to that in the next half of the year.
So Tony, one question about that. With the manage application, I understand that it's going to be a separate app altogether. Now, with the manage on the iOS platform, you can only use it on an iPad. Are you allowing this, is the idea behind this manage application to be used on all different types of Android devices?
That's correct, and we also intend to allow the manage application to be iPhone friendly as well. So some other things, major things that we're going to focus on this half of the year is the idea that we can add in server-side logic. So if you're comfortable or familiar with writing your little JavaScript statements on the iFormBuilder client side, you can kind of take that same mindset and apply it to the server. So if if age is less than 18, require the signature field to pop up for the guardian, and that works fantastic in the form design. It really lets you build in workflows to these forms and make them more than just a piece of paper would be. The same need exists on the server side. So as data is coming in, the idea that we can analyze this information and make some decisions. A real common and highly requested example is if you have a drop-down list, and let's just say there's a list of fruits in that drop-down list, and there's also a choice for other. If you had a text field below the drop-down list for this other selection anytime it popped up, ideally you would want this other selection to get added back into the list when the user submits the record. So that's just a real simple example. We can have a server-side logic basically saying, if this other field has data and that data doesn't match an entry already in the list, then add it. So it's something we're working towards building out, and I'm sure this will be a big can of worms that we open up once we have this out. So we're really excited about doing that, and would welcome any feedback that our clients have about how that would work, or even interface ideas. The next thing is custom views and feeds, and this goes to the point where if you have a set of data, let's say 100 fields, and 10 people are collecting data on that form, you may actually want to build a custom view of the raw data. And so Tony is only able to see Tony's records, and he can only see 5 out of these 100 data points. Whereas Barrett can see records from Tony and Barrett and Joe, and she can see 30 out of the 100 attributes. And the way we intend to do that is basically by building a custom or long-term filter, which is then stored as a view or a feed. So basically, you're building a filter layer on top of your raw data, which could then be assigned to users. And then last point is always basically power to the community. I mean, we really want to hear what needs to be in the platform. Again, we have some ideas from looking forward and just talking to you on a regular basis, but we still want to leverage the community and to really get ideas supported by users and hear how things should be implemented. So we'll continue to monitor the community forums for new ideas. Great, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of these things that I talked about. So the new form builder is actually, here, just click this, is going to look something like this. And again, what you'll notice is a complete UI refresh. So there's no more Flash. This is all built in HTML. So this is this is taking a huge leap forward in terms of technology. What you'll notice is basically that we have all the inputs here on the left-hand side, and rather than having you say you want to add a new input to the field and then picking the type after it's been added, this is basically going to let you punch out your form design by clicking on one of these buttons. And so again, this is just a mock-up that we wanted to show for right now. All the functionalities hidden elsewhere. But the idea would be that you say, okay, I want a text field, I want a checkbox, email, address, and website. And so that would start to build your form, rather than having to add a new field and then saying what those field types are. You can see that fields can be expanded or collapsed, and so when they are collapsed, you get the the very basic view of what the field label is and the type of field that it is. When you expand it, you'll be given access to all the additional attributes that you've seen in the form builder for that field type. So an option list driven element is going to have the option list available, and then you'll have different attributes for different field types. So just a quick insight on what we're working on there, and we welcome any feedback that you have, and we're really excited just about some of the workflow enhancements that come with this new interface. So I'm going to slide back to the deck, and yep,
Sorry, can we
Bear, question?
actually, yeah, can we just go one step backwards as well to the previous slide? There was a question about the different custom views and feeds.
Okay.
So, for example, will this allow someone to edit the data for that particular form? Or I guess this is more than just the views and feeds permission. So, are you planning on adding any additional permissions, for instance, letting someone edit a form in the browser, but without giving them access to all the other forms in that account,
Um,
or to be able to do any other administrative? I know, and this individual knows that, with the form builder, you're able to only allow that person to see the forms that they've created. But if I want to just share one form with you that I've created, is that something that could be done?
yes, that could certainly be done with a very robust role system. The custom views and feeds is not really focused on revising any of the current iFormBuilder roles. Just to reiterate, the custom views and feeds is not meant to change any of the existing iFormBuilder roles. As you have today, you can give users rights to view forms. So effectively, this is a way to give them a right to view part of a form, filtered down data set, if you will. So if they don't have edit rights, then they can't edit the data that they can view. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Tony. Thank you. So just to answer this person's question as well, they asked if something like additional permissions would be added in Q3 or Q4 of this year. From what the sounds of what you're saying, no, we have the custom views and feeds, but potentially down the road, additional permissions could be granted. It just is not in the immediate forecast.
That's correct. We do not have any immediate plans to do any role restructuring.
Great. All right. Thank you, Tony. Now
Okay, you're
back to the
welcome.
form builder.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, again, just to kind of reiterate, there's a few things here that we wanted to really focus on. Forms first. So I'll slide back over here. Again, this is really meant to kind of streamline the way that you work with inside the application. So today, you'll actually go into a particular section, let's say the form builder, and then the first action that you do is you select a form to work in. And then once you're done modifying your form, you may go to localization, and your first task is to select a form you want to localize. So with this whole form builder refresh, we're actually changing the way that you interact and how you access parts of the form. So we are doing a form first focus. So within Northwest Building Inspection, I've actually said this is the form I'm going to work in, and I have all of the options for modifying this form, whether it's the design, an option list in one of the field types, the localization, the scoring, or even the main settings. So your page level JavaScript, your field names, all those fun things. And so this should cut down on the fact that you have to go to localize and then select the Northwest Building Inspection to apply any localizations. In this case, we're going to select the form first, and then we have all the actions available to us. Modern interface, and again, we think we'll save a lot of time here, basically by having all the field types kind of laid out, and you just punch on the type that you want to put into your form, rather than having to say I want to add a new input and then making a secondary decision to say what input type it is. We're combining that decision into one and allowing you to build forms just by using this input menu on the left-hand side.
So Tony, people are really excited about this new form builder. One question is though, right now, and from the looks of what you showed us, it's still in the development side of your form building, so you can't really see what it's going to look like on your device. Is that something that you are in the plans of trying to allow your users to be able to see how it'll look on the device versus how it the structure is in the form builder?
I mean, no, it's not really one of the focuses that we have, and I guess the reason being is that the form design and layout is all very generic in that you have field types laid out vertically from top to bottom. And so I know what they're asking for, but it's not something that we're focusing on. and it's certainly something we could look into, but at this point we're not trying to do an HTML version of the form.
Okay, great. That's a perfect response, and I think it's very clear. We do have another question that came about as far as the form builder, and this actually comes into play with the form assignments. This individual is wondering if a form assignment is built directly into the new UI or if it's going to be separate.
It's a great question. We haven't really made, I guess I would say, any efforts to incorporate assignment into this form builder. Again, this is mostly about the design itself, not who has access to it. So this was, including any scoring that you would build into the design or localizations you build into the design or the design itself. We're really not trying to incorporate permissions here. Although now that I think about it for 5 seconds, it sounds like the right move. So we'll take a closer look at that idea there. Okay, great. Let's move off the form builder here and jump into the Folio integration. So just a quick screen grab from the preview environment that I have access to. Just so you know, there's no smoke and mirrors. You can see iFormBuilder is now a supported data source within the preview environment for Folio. So hopefully should have some more information on when we can expect a release date. We do have a few of our clients actually in a beta testing program to check this out and to play around and provide some feedback. So if you are a Folio user and you want to be part of this, please do let us know. We have a good relationship and a conversation going with Folio right now, so I'm sure they would be happy to have more folks jump on that bandwagon. Okay, multi-factor authentication. There's a number of options out there, and I think at this moment we're going to first try to tackle Google Authenticator, but we want to know what you're using out there. If you have the YubiKey or any other solutions out there that you're leveraging and you've already applied to other softwares, please do let us know. Again, this will be most likely the first of many, and Google Authenticator seemed like a great choice as we're already using this for some software that we use internally. Okay, manage application for Android. These are just the points we talked about. It is a dedicated application. It will not be included in the iForm version of Android. So you'll have iForm and iForm Manage or something similar. It will leverage the same login, so you don't have to remember 2 separate logins. And it should really give us some really good opportunities to improve what you see in the current iOS version of the Manage. The main reason being is that this is all going to connect over the new version of the APIs that we have available, which will allow us to refine the data that comes back and to execute the requests much faster.
So Tony, just to go back to Form Builder again, there was another question, and I do know one response, and you can talk about this a little bit, but once we have this new Form Builder going out to the public, do you want to talk about how they'll have the version or the option to choose between the classic or the new, as well as there are some concerns about what will happen with the forms that they currently have in their account?
Oh, great question. So yeah, exactly. The plan is to introduce the new Form Builder in parallel with the old one. So if you're not keen to the design or there's reasons that you want to stay with the old version, we don't plan to take that away immediately. We will put a plan in place to remove that from the application, but I would say you're safe for another year. Any form that you've already built will be certainly rendered by that Form Builder, the new version, and it's really not creating any new forms, it's just visualizing the forms that you already have or new ones that you want to build in a different interface.
All right, thank you. That's all for now. I'm sure I'll interrupt you in a few minutes anyways.
Okay, sounds good. So we're going to cruise on through here, and this is one that we had attempted to do in Q2 and just didn't get around to it, but the idea that we can actually take the scoring views that you've seen on the server and bring those down to the client. There's been a number of folks who've done scoring and have the need to do the scoring real time before the data is submitted back to the server. It's really not as efficient as it could be using the custom JavaScript functions and trying to maintain scoring that way. So the fact that it's already on the server, we are going to make sure that we get scoring views onto the client side and make sure that you can leverage all of the form modifications that you've done on both iOS and Android. And then this is really the focus for the last part of the year is the server-side logic, the filtered views and feeds, custom views and feeds, if you will. And again, still just paying attention to the community, although this should be in Q3 as well. That's my bad. And I'm sure, like I said earlier, there will be a number of other things that pop up in the meantime, but these are kind of the core the core features or updates that we're focusing on the next half of the year. Barrett, are there any questions on any of this stuff before I kind of move into just general Q&A and open discussion?
So there's just one more question, and that's just as far as what we have and what you have in line for as far as development the next half of the year. What if there was a company that wanted something developed and it's not in our pipeline? How would they go about talking to you or go about getting that into the platform?
That is a fantastic question, and I would say you can send an email directly to me at truth@iFormBuilder.com, and we can certainly have a discussion around what those needs are and kind of what it would take to make that happen. So I would just want to throw a really big thanks out to the following folks here. I get to stand up here and tell you about all the wonderful things that iFormBuilder has done, and these guys are the real heroes, the guys behind the scenes that really do all the heavy lifting, and you can see it's a short list here. Calvin, our lead developer, is truly fantastic. He bounces from the iOS to the Android to the server to new, scoping out new development projects all within the same 2 hours. So, without Calvin and his flexibility, a lot of what we do and why we do it wouldn't be possible. So, Calvin, thank you for all your hard work. Keith, as well, is basically Calvin's counterpart. So he has to make sure all the things that Calvin is working on within a given week, don't cause any disruption in the field. So. Keith is very instrumental in allowing us to move code from development into production within those very short time frames that we've talked about. And then we have Sven and Antonio, our two infrastructure wizards who basically manage the hundreds of servers that we have out there in the world, and have really helped us smooth and streamline deployment, so that way they're not getting too disrupted when we want to push code every couple of weeks. And then I want to actually just take a few moments to introduce the two newest members to our team, Yun Hong and Seth. So these two have joined our team in the last few months here, I think beginning of Q2. And it's been amazing. Seth is actually the man behind the form transporter, the form packager that you'll see coming out here shortly. And Yun Hong has been working on a number of Android-related projects for us, as well as getting coached up by Calvin on the general platform on iOS and the server side. So anyway, without getting too mushy, a huge thanks to these guys. Really couldn't do it without them, and all their hard work and flexibility. So in closing, you can certainly contact me and we'll make this slide available. But again, it's truth, T-R-U-T-H, @iFormBuilder.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have that you didn't get in during this webinar session here. And then Barrett has also made all of these webinars available. So if you want to follow this link, you can find those. If not, you can reach out to her and she can get you pointed in the right direction. We also have a number of other resources that we encourage you to to go and to learn more about the platform and what others are doing. And ultimately, if you do need help, we have a full service implementation team, all the way from building forms to training your new users and new admins up to development support, either at the integration level or changing the product to basically meet your needs. So with that, Barrett, I think I'm going to kick it back off to you, and we can kind of open it up for discussion and any closing remarks that you have.
Sure, Tony. One question was about if there are going to be any updates to the Thunder plug. Now, I know this call is primarily about the development of the iFormBuilder platform, but can you just give a high-level overview on any other product updates, whether it be the Thunder plug or or Gnosis?
Oh, that's great. And shame on me for not including the plug. Actually, so there have been some updates to the plug. More recently, we're looking at an enclosure which effectively includes a battery, a power supply, so that it's really ready to go into the field. You don't have to assemble a bunch of items to power your plug while you're in a disconnected environment. On the software side, we've actually we've done some changes on the Wi-Fi settings, and so we're only leveraging WPA2 encryption for the Wi-Fi password. And we're also introducing an interface within the Thunderplug page that allows a user to set the SSID and also the network password. And so that way you will ultimately have full control over that plug once you receive it. Well, full control over the network ID and the password for it. So those are two improvements that are coming. We have a team that's actually working with us right now to beta test the plugs that include the battery, and so we hope to get some feedback from them and then in the coming months and see how that can help folks out. In regards to Gnosis, I know Woody is basically night and day, just just pounding on the keyboard, and we also have some groups that are basically going through some training now, receiving some product demonstrations, and have agreed to have their data loaded into Gnosis and to start trialing it out and seeing how they can drive the development of the platform. So things are moving in a very positive direction, and hopefully we can get an update once the beta testing completes here in the next couple months.
Okay, and then just one other question, and this is just as far as the differences between the Android devices and the iOS devices and how iForm works on them. There is still some inconsistencies as far as what the platforms can handle. I mean, we all know that they are different products, and so that there is going to be some differences. But as far as the iForm and the widgets included, is there a time frame that you have for Android devices having exactly the same widgets available to them and functionality as the iOS?
I would say in that regard, it's constant improvement. So there's no hard deadline of it's going to be the same level across the board by this date. I guess it would be helpful to know, what specifically those folks are looking for. Some of the hardware that we've integrated is not available on Android, and so, in that regard, it might be challenging to ever bring the two to the same level. But certainly for like the drawing widget and some of the other things that are not in the Android platform, we're working towards bringing those in as quickly as we can.
All right, I think that's a great response, and I think a lot of what this comes through is people are wanting that drawing widget. So
that's great.
And that's all the questions that we have. I mean, there was a question about what is compatible for Android devices versus iOS devices. So if you wouldn't mind showing them that help desk article that we have available for individuals.
Yeah, I think. So if you just type in difference, actually you should get the first hit, which is the difference between iOS and Android. And we have a checklist here which basically runs down through. So, yep, drawing widget is something we need to take a look at. Again, I'm not sure all the hardware widgets are available for Android. Some of these, we'd have to take a deeper look into. But you can take a look at this page and certainly let us know what your needs are, and we can find ways to work with you. We should have some music, Barrett.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. So there is another question.
I could sing for you. Okay.
We need some elevator
Good.
music.
Good. I don't have to sing then. That's good.
So the question is, this person would like to be able to assign a form for a certain time frame. Each week I am assigning and unassigning new forms to the same users.
Okay. So basically the form gets assigned and then removed after some time frame?
Yes, and this person then added that or add the assign feature to the new platform going out. So I think the idea is instead of having every Monday you're assigning form A and then Friday you're unassigning form A, next Monday you're assigning form B, and so on. How can we kind of say this form's only available for the next 20 days or for the next 10 days?
So there's a couple ways to go about that. I would say, I mean, if it's truly a schedule, that's something that I would write a very simple application around for handling the assign and unassigning of those forms. So if you know that Tony's going to get this form on Monday and then it needs to be removed on Tuesday, that's something that's clearly defined and could be handled through the APIs. So that would be the route that I would go. I guess additionally we could consider a feature that I guess effectively does exactly that. So my next question would be, does it have to be, is the form assigned to more than one user? And if so, how do we control who sees what and when? But effectively, the API would let you handle the assignment routine today. Just have to build some code around it.
So this individual's name is Russell, and Russell, I'd be happy to give you audio if you want to talk through what you're actually looking to do. I can go up there now and do that permission. Just bear with me a second. And if you can't use audio, just let us know after. Oh, actually, because Russell, because you didn't log in through the computer, I can't actually give you audio. I can send an audio pin to you, which is the #44# to enable your muting to occur if you want that. While we're trying to get Russell up in the audio, there was another question that says, similarly, can we do that with users as well? Assign a user account for X amount of days, and then also auto kill that user ID after X amount of days if they're not logged in.
I mean, again, so the API supports creating and deleting users. So it's certainly possible to create users without logging into the system or through some code and then delete them if some business rule was met. There's no built-in function within the system to kill a user though, unless you go in and just delete them. But certainly all these workflows are possible.
Just a lot of it comes down to automating with the API.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so Russell, I've unmuted you and feel free to communicate now, I guess.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, the question with assigning the features is just a way to do it quicker than the workflow that I have to use now. And so there's about 4 or 5 forms individual to specific users, and each week I have to unassign all the forms and then go back and assign the forms to the individual people. And you can't select all that at once, right? So what you have to do is you go to the Assign Forms tab, select the form, select the users who can't have it, click OK at the bottom. Then you have to go back and find the next form, and I'm looking in a list of a couple hundred forms to find each one each time. So if I could set a range as I created the form to be available to this user and then no longer available to this user as I create the form, then I would never have to go to the Assign Forms tab.
So Russell, can you help me understand, like the form you build, it's assigned to me, beginning of the week, and then it's assigned to me at the end of the week? Is that how it works? Something like that?
That's it.
Okay.
And then and then the information gathered on that form has to be processed through a couple of batch programs here. So we can't have it just sitting out there.
Got it.
They can manipulate it any further.
So then after I'm unassigned that form, is that something I'm ever assigned again?
That's right.
Okay. But is it so it's kind of a routine. It's not something that it varies. Like I will always get assigned this form again, Monday after the data is processed.
It's a new form created. It's a new form with a new name. So basically basically it's form X week number 1, right? Then next week you're going to get week number 2, and next week you're going to get week number 3.
Okay, so you basically make a new form every week, but then it's like the same batch of users that gets assigned to that. Is that what you're saying?
So it's let's say it's five different forms, and basically all I'm doing is copying to create the form. I'm copying the form from the previous week, and then renaming it, and then assigning those 5 individual forms to 5 individual people.
So it's the same exact form, it just gets a new name?
I mean, there's 5. Yeah, that's right. But each five of the forms are different. But it's the same form going to the user, just with a new name.
Oh.
So
yeah, I mean, I think what you're driving towards, and something that actually Keith has brought up a number of times, it's just not how our application set up today, is doing the assignment from the form level. So like I think you were driving at it maybe when we looked at the new form builder. If from this form I can say who should all be assigned to it, you actually change the way assignment works. So you get a list of
and a date range. So if I could put a date range and then just select the users that are assigned that form as I create it, then I mean, yeah, that frees up having to go to the assign tab completely.
Yeah. I mean, I would say one thing to look into, and this is, I mean, I don't know what type of experience or background you have, but ultimately, yeah, I think we might be able to help you out with really simple API routine. If you're telling me, hey, I got 5 forms I copy every week, and I got to assign all these users to these 5 forms, it could be reduced to basically you copy the forms, get the new IDs, and then just copy and paste that into like a Postman request, and you could use the API to save a lot of time there.
Okay.
So yeah, let's take this offline maybe and just talk about a little more detail and see if there's a way we can help you out in the meantime.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Awesome, no problem.
Thank you. And just along with that,
Hey,
Tony. Yep, one of the other participants had a quick question on that, and they just asked why not just change a fixed constant on the form and keep using the same form name? And I don't know how you'd respond to that for this person's workflow, but I just thought I'd mention that was a question that was out there as well.
Was this a suggestion for Russell, or was this a question?
This was a suggestion based off of that conversation, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say too, maybe even one idea, Russell, to toss around is, so if you're truly copying the same 5 forms, one option would be actually just to dump the data from those forms, assuming it sounds like you're copying it across to another environment. And then if you truly just needed to rename the form, you could do that, and then your users are still stuck with the same assignment that they had. It's a new form name, and it's void of any data that you would have collected last week. I guess it comes down to, do you really have to unassign the form from those users over the weekend, or can they keep the access?
Yeah, it usually takes the following week to get everything verified before we can wipe the forms. So
I see. So there's a processing delay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
And then we looked. I think the feature exists to allow them to add records onto the same form, and then we could only pull those records previously off. But I found it much easier just to do it this way. And then I have a I have a copy here. I've got a copy in my forms database in case something went wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean that's helpful to understand kind of the full picture
That
there.
was that was another feature I asked once before about being able to back up the forms database. For instance, I accidentally clicked the delete button, or I accidentally wiped a form that I didn't need to wipe the data 500 records on, and we weren't able to get that back. And I asked if there was a way to download maybe a local copy of the database on a regular schedule, so that if something happened, that I could give it to you guys and you could populate it back for me.
I mean, well, we actually do backups nightly, so we have every database backed up on a nightly schedule and can do the restore. It's not something we make accessible through like our application interface, but ultimately, I mean, if there's any data that does get wiped out, just know that we do have backups and can restore that.
Okay. They told me they couldn't.
So if it's not in a backup, well, if it's not in a backup, let's say you push something in, now, and then you delete it 5 minutes from now. Correct. There's no backup of that data. But ultimately, if you had something there and then it's in a backup and it gets wiped out, we are certainly able to restore that for you.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yep. We're continuing to grow as a company, and as we grow, we are certainly looking for knowledgeable resources. Those folks that have experience with iFormBuilder and may be interested in joining the team at any level, I would encourage you to reach out to us. Just get a conversation started. It may not happen tomorrow, but ultimately it's great to know who's out there and maybe who would want to join the team here at iFormBuilder. So certainly reach out to myself or Barrett or anybody else that you may have contact with. Send them a resume, send them kind of your interests and your intent, and let's get a conversation started.
Hi, Tony. Sorry, I was forgetting that I was on mute and I was talking to you. So there aren't any other questions, but I want to thank everyone else for attending today. And if you do find that after the session you have additional questions, feel free to send both Tony and myself those questions, or visit our Customer Success Center and talk to Joe on chat. We're always happy to help, and I'll be sending you the link to this recording in the next 24 hours. Thank you all again, and enjoy.